Did you know that some of us have lived in trauma all of our lives and didn't even realize it? Like serious trauma that you really don't even know, and you really call that love. You call the trauma and all the drama that you were raised in and that you were born in love, because that's all you know, right? So what does that do to a child when they were born in trauma? They were born in a lot of drama. And it's not so much as the brothers and sisters, because they really can't help it because they were born in it too. It's really like the parents' fault. But it's not really their fault, because then the parents, and the parents, and the parents. So it's an ancestry thing. It's a lineage thing. It's a generational thing. And so what I'm trying to say is a lot of us don't know that we were born in a lot of trauma. And so we think that that's what we're supposed to look at as love. That's how we're supposed to be treated. That's how we are supposed to be, that's how we are. And so therefore you go through life in different relationships after you grow up from your family. You start to date other people. So you start to date people that's that same image of your trauma, but you think it's love because it's a learned behavior. And therefore, all the people that come into your life is who you attract because of what you are on the inside. The seed that you have on the inside, the seed that you were born with, was almost a curse. If your mother or your father, when you were born, before you were born and before you were conceived, if they say they didn't want you, then that's another thing that can cause trouble in the womb spiritually. Because you're manifesting that you hate that child before that child is even born. So if you tell yourself that you don't want this baby that you have, that you know that you're pregnant on the inside and you have a baby on the inside of your stomach and you don't even know about that child, and you say, well, I don't want that child. I don't want this child. And you end up having a child anyway, then you start to treat that child with resentment. You start to have resentment towards that child unconsciously without even knowing it. And so therefore you portray that love on that half-assed love on that child. And you start to say to yourself, the child grows up thinking, well, do they really love me? But then they start to take, now, an innocent child, one is like 1 through 10 years old, wouldn't have a clue because they're children. They wouldn't have a clue that you don't love them. They don't have a clue that you're not loving on them or showing them affection or hugging on them or showing them that you really care. But if you show them in money all the time, oh, I can give you these things. I can buy you these things. Oh, I can feed you this. This is love. But, that's somebody's way of love, and that's not their fault. It's just the way they were loved. And a lot of times a child grows up in resentment, and then it goes and it spreads out into their relationships, and their relationships are reflected on the trauma that we're carrying on the inside that we were born with and didn't even realize it. That child that was born that wasn't loved from the beginning, from the seed, from the womb, is walking around the world acting like the world doesn't love them. And guess what? Probably doesn't. It's giving off that air, that aura that, I am not loved. So therefore, how can I love somebody else? How can I receive love when they never had the love that they thought they should have had? But see, now it comes a choice. Toxicity is a choice. But see, if there's someone that's willing to go the extra mile, that's willing to change that curse, that's willing to change that generational curse for their next lineage, and they don't want those toxic ways like their parents' ways. Not that it's their fault. It's just that they don't want to carry that with them. So they'll do anything in their power to get rid of those nasty ways. Not trying to be judgmental here, but all of us were born with some kind of curse because we don't know what our parents did. We don't know what their parents' parents did. So we can't really necessarily blame our parents, but you do have a choice on whether you want to deal with toxicity. So don't let people tell you that, oh, that's your mama, that's your daddy, that's your sister, that's your brother. Well, listen, if sister, brother, mama, daddy are not respecting you to a point where they're hurting you and they're traumatizing you, and they're always constantly making you feel bad about being yourself and loving on yourself and just accepting you for you, and all you do is come around and show them love and light, and they beat you down, they try to change you, they try to manipulate you to be who they are, and that's not who you are, then you have a choice to let them go. I'm sorry. Family or not family, friends or no friends, foes or no hoes. I'm just telling you that it comes to a point that you have to make a change. You don't have to hate your parents. You forgive them, and you forgive yourself for having any kind of toxic interaction with them, because guess what? It takes two to tango. But it's your choice whether you want to deal with that toxicity or not. And you know what? It's my choice. If I want to feel like I want to break off from that person because that is it's not working. But see, it can also travel into your relationships, into your dating, and also into marriage. Those unresolved situations, those unresolved traumas can go into a place where it's almost unforgivable. You start to act out like your parents because you are the print image of what they are because you were raised by them. It's a learned behavior. But how do you get out of that? You ask God to undo it. You show him. Now, if you're asking for breaking a generational curse, he's going to bring you back like a Christmas story. He's going to bring you all the way back to your past. He's going to show you your past, and it's not going to be pretty. It is not going to be pretty. You have to be strong. If you're asking for a generational curse to be broken into your family, if you're one of those, if you're a black sheep in the family, and if you're, hated the most in your family, or you look down in the family, or you're the youngest and everybody's looking at you because you're different, because you're changing religious statuses that you don't believe in what they believe in. Well, guess what? You are the black sheep. Because when you stand against everybody else that's different, that are the same, and you came out different, and you have the different beliefs on certain things, then you are most likely the black sheep. If you don't fit into the family, and it's always a difference, it's always some tension, there's some divisiveness, you can't really see on the same page, you don't feel the love that you're giving, because you can love somebody so much that they don't even respect you. That can travel into your work relationships, your friendships, your own families that you create. But see, the thing is, the trick of all of this is to make sure that you want to be the change and you want to be the difference, because there are people out there that does not see themselves in the mirror. They sit there and they know that they're monsters, that they're evil and they're wicked, and they still say, ain't nothing wrong with me, and they want to blame it on somebody else because they're parents. Okay, whatever. Those type of parents do not deserve you. If they cannot respect you as a human being, if they cannot respect you as an adult, they don't deserve you. And I'm not on here trying to throw shade. I believe in family. I do. I'm the epiphany of what family time is. But if family cannot respect you and all they can do is hurt you and beat you down because they say, oh, well, they provide. I don't care about providing. Can you provide love? Forget the materialistic stuff. Can you provide love? That's the question that we need to be asking. What is in it for the heart, not what's in it for the pocket or for the... Listen, I ain't never, I've always been kind of different. I ain't never really been that materialistic like that. Even though I like materialistic things, I like to look nice. Don't get me wrong. I'm a Capricorn now. We love nice things, but at the same time, our main goal is love. Well, I can't speak for everybody. My main goal, my ultimate thing is to love. My gift in life is to love, and I would love to find someone that loves me back. And when you can't find that in the world, you are lost. And if you can't find that in your family, you are lost, you are deprived, you have been abandoned some kind of way. And they think, oh, I'm providing for you, or I'm feeding you, or I'm there every time you call me. But really, do they really honestly love on you as a human being, as a decent human being? Are they being decent human beings towards you? The question is, how toxic is your family? I'm kind of focusing on the family because a lot of us are really staying in situations that are not healthy for us. And I'm going to be the first to tell you that if it's not healthy for you, if they don't want to change, if they don't want to change and they think everything they're doing is right, then you have the right to walk away, run away if you need to keep peace in your mind. Because sometimes it takes you to walk. Oprah did it. She walked away from her family because she knew that it was toxic for her. She knew the type of love that she was experiencing as a child. And so when you grow up like that, your relationships reflect that trauma, that hurt, and you become the drama queen. But when you let God in and you say, God, I don't want to live my life like that. I don't want to be this way. I don't want to be like my mama. I don't want to be like my daddy. I don't want to be like the people that have hurt me in the past. Then it's up to you to say, God, I give this trauma to you. I give this pain to you. I forgive those people that have hurt me in the past, even the people that have been abusive to you in the relationship that you've been in because they took advantage of your kindness, your love, your good heart, your good soul, and all they did was step on it. All they did was step on you because they knew they could take advantage of you, right? Well, it comes to a point when you have to be the adult and say, what is healthy for me? What's going to be healthy for the rest of my life? What's going to be healthy for my family? Because listen, I'm not going to bring a child in this world. And if my family is not treating me right, if my parents are not treating, there's no way I'm bringing them around my grandparents they can't do right. If they can't love me, what makes you think they're going to love my, come on now. I wouldn't even dare let them around. There's certain people in my family that I trust more than others. You know, it is what it is. And you should have somebody in your family that you can trust, that you can confide in, that you can run to when there's problems. Again, nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect. I'm not sitting here acting like, I'm all this and that, but I know that my heart is. I'm sorry to say it, but I have a good heart, a perfect heart. For anybody to take advantage of, because I'm just that type of person. I would give anybody my last if I had it. I would do anything I could if I had it. I would do whatever I could in my nature to make somebody feel better about themselves. I try to give people the best advice I can because I've been through a lot. I hadn't been through everything, but I think I've been through enough. I'm an empathic person, so I feel the next person before I even get to them. It don't even matter. The point is, we can let life beat us down so low that we don't even think that we're worth it anymore. The question you need to ask, how much worth or how valuable are you to these people that you call family? Do they love you enough to say it? Do they tell you they love you? Do they put their arms around you without it being fake? Because people can say things, but do their actions match their words? Do their actions match their words? And when you're asking God to heal you, you actually go in deep. You say, you constantly go in and you wake up with him on your mind. You go to bed with God on your mind. You listen. God will lead you even on YouTube and listen to certain things. He'll lead you into music to listen to. He'll lead you into healing without a therapist. Even though a therapist is needed, don't say no to that. I've just had bad experiences with therapists. I just feel like I haven't met someone that has really got me, except the only person I know is Dr. Jesus that really done got me through all of this. I want to be honest with you. When you give it to God and you let go, it's a different story. It's a different type of healing. And therefore, he can utilize that. He can work with that now because now you've given your pain away. You said, you know what? I'm not going to hold this cross in my back anymore. I'm not going to hold this pain in my back anymore. I'm not going to hold this trauma, because what that does is harden your heart. It makes you a bitter person. It makes you nasty. It makes you bitchy. It makes you itchy. It makes you so, you don't even know subconsciously what you're doing to another person. You're damaging other people. But other people, now damaged people attract damaged people too now. You are mostly more vulnerable to damaged people because you're damaged, and so therefore you want to help other people, but then you end up hurting them because they're hurting you. They're hurting you. They have hurts on the inside they're not talking about. So therefore you have two damaged people coming together. You love each other. The first, if you read the 5 love languages, the first time you meet someone, it's heaven. You're on cloud 9. Every time you meet somebody, it's always good. But the real test comes in a marriage if you can go through the thick and thin and get through it with communication. But see, I just got off the phone. I just talked to somebody, and peace has to be in the Middle East. Peace has to be in the middle. Now, if there hasn't been peace in the relationship lately, then you have to seek peace within yourself. If you don't have peace within yourself, you can't give anybody else peace. Does that make sense? Now, do not look for perfection, because nobody is perfect. No one is perfect. I believe that 2020 has brought me through a lot. I told you, it's like a Christmas story. I felt like I was the Scrooge. I became bitter. I was battered. I've been abused. I've been misused. A lot of you have too that's listening in. You're running around here like a bunch of Scrooges, mad at the world. And honestly, the world, and don't let people tell you, oh, well, it's your fault. No, some of this is not your fault. Do not carry that with you. I'm telling you, this is not your fault. What if I'm the one person who's going to tell you, no, player, that ain't your fault. It's what you were raised in that caused you to be that way. So now you have to determine, will you be the person to save your family, or will you be the person to save yourself from your family trauma? Because if they can't change, and if they don't accept change, now there's certain people in my family that I see now, they're changing, they're doing better, they're, things are, blah, blah, blah. And it's happening organically. It's just naturally flowing. But if there's some people in your family, for instance, some parents think that just because they're parents, oh, I ain't got to change. I'm the parent and you're the child, and you do what I say and you do it my way. Well, those type of people, they don't deserve you. I'm going to be upfront with you. They don't deserve you. Does not mean that you don't forgive them. Doesn't mean that you don't, love them in Christ's way. But the book of Thomas, if you look at the lost book of Thomas, it was talking about, Jesus said a parable that was very, very key. He said, if you do not hate your family, you cannot be my disciple. He said, if you do not hate he said that. I'll have to pull it up and let you listen to it. He said, you cannot be my disciple. If you do not hate wicked ways. Psalms 45 talks about it, and I can pull it up right now. Listen to this. Therefore, we can sum it up. Psalms 45 states. There it is. Psalms 45:7 says, you love righteousness and hate wickedness. Therefore, God, your God, has set you above your companions by anointing you with the oil of joy. When you hate wickedness, God loves you. When you despise evil ways of people, God loves you. You are so loved, it's ridiculous. But see, you've got to know that you're loved by him first. If you don't feel like you're loved by anybody else in the world, if you don't feel like that a lot of people would say, oh, why you act like nobody don't love? Why you act like we don't love? Because your actions don't match your mouth. Some people will use you. They will use you they will climb on top of you. They will compete against you just to be first. But see, you got to know that what God has for you is for you. What God has for me is for me. It's nothing else. So once you walk into that freedom, you're free. You don't even have to think about what you got going on no more. Because people that are doing you wrong, that are doing evil things, that are doing wicked things to just be this way and that way, that are doing jealous things, competitive things against you, guess what? They have to meet their maker. They got to meet their maker. And you also got to know your power. Don't let, if you're the youngest in the family, a lot of younger people, the youngest, you have a big family. I'm in a big family. And you just seem like nothing you say, they don't listen to it. Okay, great. That's how it works. I mean, that's not the most traumatic thing. Okay, right. Well, that's just how it is. That's the package it goes when you're the youngest child. You know, you're going to get the last slack. Usually the youngest child is the most different child. They're a little bit more liberal thinking. They're a little bit not old school. You know what I'm saying? They're going to think out of the box. And if you have a big family, guess what? You could be that one person that they're looking down on, that they overlook, that the one person that could change their entire life and they don't even know it. But sometimes it's too late. You are not obligated to save everybody. You're not. You are only obligated to save yourself. Be selfish now. You've got to save yourself because nobody else in this world cares about you. I hate to say it. The only person that cares about you is God. You have to walk around saying that to yourself. But if you have your husband or your wife, and my heart is going out to marriages now because that's just where I'm at, that if it's reconcilable, if you can work it out, if it's not the worst thing in the world, even if it is the worst thing in the world, if you love each other, if there's room for improvement, if they're not willing to change, if you just say, just say if you were married to an alcoholic, I use that as a prime example. And you say, well, honey, I think that you should go get help with your alcohol problem. And they say, well, I don't have an alcohol problem. Well, then that's the type of person that you do not continue the relationship with, because that is the person that says, I don't have a problem. But if if your partner says, I have a problem, I admit that I have a problem and that I want to fix this problem and I want to heal from this issue. I heal from my trauma, my past trauma, and I want to kill the drama. If they're willing to do that, then that is where you got a workable relationship. But if they're not willing to let it see, because it takes two to tango, it takes two to argue. If they're not willing to see themselves either, and the other person's always blaming everything on you, then that is not a reconcilable relationship. If everything is on you and they don't see themselves and there's no mirror in front of them and they don't see them on, then you can't work with that either. It takes two to fight. It takes two to argue. It takes two to fist fight. Let's just be honest. A lot of people have gone through abusive relationships and they've gotten through it on top. But because they were abused, then they abuse other people. And sometimes we can bring out the worst in people, but that doesn't mean that person wasn't already the worst because it was covered up. It was a past trauma, pain from their own past. But the bottom line is, the common denominator on all of this, the foundation of all of this is you got to have two people that want to make the change. You got to have two people that says, you know what, something's wrong with me. And I want to do anything in my power to make sure that I make you happy, that we make this house happy, that we make this house a home again, that we put peace in the middle of this, and that we, have God in the middle of this. That's all we can do. I read in Corinthians, because there's some people in some really some weird situations, and that I want you to hear me out here. Let's see here. I don't want to lose my spaces in here. All right. All right. So 1 Corinthians talks about marriage on the seventh number of Corinthians. And I'm going to start here. Now it says marriage. 1 Corinthians 7 chapter. Now for the matters you wrote about, it is good for a man not to marry. But since there is so much immorality, see it says, but since there is so much immorality, each man, and this is what I had highlighted a long time ago. I didn't even know I had it highlighted when I read it the other day. I'm reading this book called Strengthening Marriage. Each man should have his own wife and each woman her own husband. The husband should fulfill his marital duty to his wife and likewise the wife to her husband. Then it keeps going. The wife's body does not belong to her alone, but also to her husband. In the same way, the husband's body does not belong to him alone, but is also to his wife. And it says on the 5th verse, do not deprive each other except by mutual consent and for a time. And for a time means for a moment, so that you may devote yourselves to prayer. So when you're separated, you should be devoting yourself to prayer and not temptation. You should be praying for one another, strengthening, letting God come in that picture and say, Lord, what can I do to be a better person? What can I do? Let's not even talk about him. What can you do to change in me, Lord? Show me. He's going to bring you back to your past. He's going to bring you back like a movie. You're going to see your past and everything that you went through that made you the person that you are. So he's going to tell you, baby, it's not all your fault. God himself will tell you it's not your fault. Baby girl, this is what you've gone through that made you bitter, that made you like that. He will vindicate you. He will love on you while he's showing you. He will also pat you on your butt too to see where you went wrong. Because a lot of times we don't want to admit that we were wrong. Well, guess what? I've been wrong in my relationship. I have been flat out wrong. That's why I publicly apologized. And to my husband, I said, Lord, please let him know that I am sorry. I'm just a person. I'm just a human being that was lost in the sauce, that got lost in the curse that came up on us in 2019, actually. Curse 19, not COVID-19. So I'm going to keep going. Do not deprive each other. If you're in a marriage and y'all are separated and you're having too much fun and y'all doing what you want to do in separation, then you're doing it wrong. Do not deprive each other except by mutual consent and for a time. Deprive each other in the bedroom, meaning sexually. Don't do that. But if it's a time that you need to separate to heal and to ask God to come in, because I'm going to tell you, through separation, I'm asking God to help me. Heal me, Lord. It ain't even about him no more. Heal me. What can you do to bring me out, Lord? What can you do to make me a better person, Lord? What can I do, Lord? What can I do, Lord? Help me not be that person. Break this curse off of me that I was born with, that Jezebel, that Delilah spirit, Lord, that I was born with, that curse that I was born with, that I wasn't wanted. And so therefore you can't let somebody love you when you don't know what love is. And so when God brings you somebody that can love you and you won't let them in, you have a wall up, then they can't love on you. You won't even allow them to love on you. You won't even trust their love. You won't even receive it because you think that they've done everything that all your boyfriends, your ex-husbands, the person that raped you, the person that hurt you, the person that misled you, the person that mistreated you, the person that abused you. You're going to think that the one that God sent you is just like that. Well, you'll run the very person away. And it's not your fault. Just catch it before it's too late. Catch it before it's too late. Get that fire out. Pull away from the fire before it's too late. God wants to use you as a testimony for other people so he can be adorned. So watch, I'm going to keep going. Do not deprive. I think you want to hear this. The wife's body does not belong to her alone, but also to her husband. In the same way, the husband's body does not belong to him alone, but is to his wife. Do not deprive each other except by mutual consent and for a time so that you may devote yourselves to prayer, not to other people. That doesn't mean you devote yourself to other people. I haven't even been talking to other people. If you've been talking to other people, let them go. If you have other friends that's an ex or somebody like that, elder male friends, female friends, you gotta let them go. I let them go. Listen, been there, done that. Let them go. And nothing went down sexually. Just having conversations with the opposite sex, it's just not right. It ain't good. Talk to the Lord. Talk to God. You may devote yourselves to prayer. Then come together again so that Satan will not tempt you because of the lack of self-control. Now, you can't go so long. You can only go so long without sex. You're a human being. And even in a marriage, Satan will try to come in and tempt you. That's why you have to get back together and figure that thing out, or Satan will come in. And a man is more physical. A woman is more spiritual and mental. But men are very physical, and it's not good for a man to be alone. It's not good. Meaning men or women. Because some of us are sexually aroused too and sexually inclined. I have a very high sex drive. I'm going to put it out there that, that's just not good news. If you have a high sex drive and you know that you are a sexually driven person, you need to hurry up and get back into your house somehow, some way, because then you're gonna open yourself up to the enemy to come in and to divide you. That's why it's not good for a man to be alone. So it says, then come together again so that Satan will not tempt you because of your lack of self-control. I say this as a concession, not as a command. I wish that all men were as I am, but each man has his own gift from God. One has this gift and another has that. Somebody has a gift of tongue. Somebody has a gift of prophecy. Somebody has a gift of singing. Somebody has a gift of this. Somebody has a gift of that. Singing. Gift and talents are two different things. But, again, everybody's not like you. And you can't expect, I expected, because my husband was a non-believer, I expected him to believe. But really, I should have just been loving on him. I should have left him alone like that. He was there loving on me. I should have just, let him be in his own freedom. Let me be in my own freedom and let bygones be bygones. You don't force yourself or your own beliefs on somebody else. And now here we go. The reason why I brought that up is because I don't mind telling my little business so you can understand what's going on. Now to the unmarried and the widows, I say, it is good for them to stay unmarried as I am. But if they cannot control themselves, they should marry. For it is better to marry than to burn with passion. To the married, I give this command, not I, but the Lord. A wife must not separate from her husband. But if she does, she must remain unmarried or else be reconciled to her husband. Y'all heard that? To the married, I give this command, not I, but the Lord. A wife must not separate from her husband. But if she does, she must remain unmarried or else be reconciled to her husband. And a husband must not divorce his wife. Now, this is what I had highlighted from years ago when I was at the seminary school, and it's just out the blue. To the rest, I say this, I, not the Lord. It has in parentheses, I, not the Lord. If any brother has a wife who is not a believer and she is willing to live with him, he must not divorce her. I'm going to say that again. To the rest, I say this, I, not the Lord, in parentheses, if any brother has a wife who is not a believer and she is willing to live with him, he must not divorce her. He must not divorce her. And if a woman has a husband who is not a believer and he is willing to live with her, she must not divorce him. Wow. This was highlighted when I was at the seminary school, in Mississippi when I was working at the Theological Seminary School, RTS. Wow, this is crazy. For the unbelieving husband has been sanctified through his wife, and the unbelieving wife has been sanctified through her believing husband. Otherwise, your children will be unholy, but as it is, they are holy. So you heard that. Because of one of the people in the relationship are holy, then your children will be holy. Point blank, period. Your wife or your husband will be holy under that umbrella. So God doesn't want you to, God doesn't honor divorce. He honors people that communicate, adulthood, maturity. Now, if you two are not mature enough to come together and say, you know, I'm willing to change. I'm willing to die to myself and to my flesh and say, you know what, I'm willing to die to my ego and say, you know what, I put my ego down. I put my, you know, whatever I had behind me, all the arguments. Now it's time for reconciliation. It's time for a solution. What can I do better in my relationship? How can I communicate better? How can I bring peace back in the home? Women, we were born with that Jezebel spirit. All of us were. I don't care who you are. If you got a period, I don't care if you don't have a period. You were born with that nasty curse because of Eve. Yep, you were. I'm sorry to tell you, but you were. You were. You were, and you ain't better than nobody just because you don't. Do you know men don't even like it when a woman doesn't even argue? If you're always that type of person that don't even argue, that don't care, that shows that she's very too passive, he don't even want you. Men want to know that you're stroking their ego some way, somehow. Women want to know that you're stroking their ego because we want to know that we're loved. We want to be surprised too. We want those elements of surprise too. We want those that time where we can feel appreciated. And guess what? Men are traumatized too, and they don't want to talk about it. Men are abused too, and they don't want to talk about it because women that born with that Jezebel curse have ruined them. And guess what? I have ruined a couple of people. I woke up and I said, Lord, forgive me for the people that I've crossed paths with and I didn't know because I was hurt. But God said, don't hold it to yourself because, baby, I showed you. I put you through your past, not because you're Scrooge. I wanted you to see what you went through and you weren't even conscious enough to see it. This is what you went through in your life. These are the snakes that you've been hanging out with. That's why I want you to know who you are and what you are and who you came from so you don't have to take it with you in your future. Everything ain't a bad thing. Everything ain't a punishment from God. Sometimes God brings you down so he can bring you back up again so he can turn you around and make you a whole nother creature that you were born to be because you were born in the gift of love anyway. Some of you, all you do is give love, spread love, and get hurt constantly by people that can't appreciate you. But God will bring you your helper. He will bring in a companion in your life. But see, when you have that in your life, you have to be willing and open to say, Lord, I know I've been hurt in my past. God, take this away from me. I don't want to be that monster that I was born in. No judgment. It's just, it is what it is. Some of us were born in a house full of monsters and we didn't even know it. Spiritually, you did not know it. You were not conscious enough to know it. Because some people, I love people so hard that I don't even see wrong. That's why God had to tear me down to say, listen, baby, you are too blind. Wake up. You are too blind. You are letting anybody and anything take the gift that I gave you and rip your heart apart and throw it on the ground and just say, you know what, the hell with you. No, you are not born. If you have a good heart, if you're an empathic person, you're always giving yourself away and in more ways than one, because you're looking for love in all the wrong places, then listen, this is for you. You've got to know your worth, but you also got to know who you are and what you've been through and what you put people through your hurt and your trauma and all the things that you put out to other people. But see, people that done you wrong, they won't even, do you know a lot of people have not apologized to me? They're not going to apologize because they don't want to admit that they're wrong. You know, I did this whole Yom Kippur thing, but then God circled it around and said, no, you need to really see why they're apologizing to you. God will bring you back to your past like a movie so that he can show you this is who you keep giving to. This is who you keep going back to hurt you and bite you like a snake. And you get mad at me. You get mad at God because you keep going back to the very place that hurts you. You can't heal in the same place that you got hurt. Unless they're willing to change. If they are willing to change, if they're willing to do whatever they can to just make it work, both sides, not just one side, both sides got to work on individually themselves, but you don't have to do it separately. You can do it together. Grow up. Some of us are immature in our relationships. We need to grow up. And if you have a person that loves you and they're showing you they're loving you and that's all they care about and that they're willing to change, then, give them the benefit of a doubt. God can change even the worst of us because of what He wants to use some of our relationships as a testimony. And I'm praying for my miracle. I don't know about you, but I believe in miracles. Like a 5-year-old child that believes in miracles and believes in magic and believes in dreams coming true. I believe in miracles. Do you believe in it? That's where faith comes in. All right, so for the unbelieving husband has been sanctified through his wife, and the unbelieving wife has been sanctified through her believing husband. Otherwise, your children will be unclean, but as it is, they are holy. But if the unbeliever leaves, let him do so. A believing man or woman is not bound in such circumstances. But see, I didn't have that highlighted. This is verse 15. This is 1 Corinthians 7 chapter, number of chapter, whatever. Yeah, I just say chapter because I'm not a preacher. 7 chapter and the 15th verse. But if the unbeliever leaves, let him do so. A believing man or woman is not bound in such circumstances. But this is what I got highlighted. God has called us to live in peace. I just talked about peace. I just told you that. How do you know, wife, whether you will save your husband? Or how do you know your husband, whether you will save your wife? Nevertheless, each one should retain the place in life that the Lord assigned to him and to which God has called him. This is the rule I lay down in all the churches. That is what I had highlighted. So what does that mean, Angel? God called us to live in peace. He has called marriages to live in peace. God wants us to love our marriage just as much as Christ loved the church. So God called us to live in peace. He didn't call us to live in turmoil for the rest of our lives. How do you break that curse? You break it. You say, you know what? I give into Kabbalah. Kabbalah believes in like dying to the ego. When there's no more ego in the relationship, you have the most beautiful relationship there is. When you can say, oh, baby, I was wrong. I was so wrong. It's not about, oh, you were wrong and you were this, and that's ego. When you speak like that, oh, you weren't shit and you weren't that and you were that and you were this and you were that, you can get over some things. But when you say, you know what, baby, we're not perfect. I understand that we're not perfect. We're only human. We make mistakes. I'm willing to move past it, moving past the past. And, I've had some time to self-reflect. And this is words coming out of my mouth. These are real words. I've had some time to think over some things. And I've had some time to heal with God on my side. And, I've saw some things that I've done wrong. And I hope and I pray that you can forgive me for the things that I've hurt you about. Because it's not if you hurt them. You did hurt them. And they've hurt you. So that's why you're separated. There's a reason why you're separated. It takes two. It's not just on one person. Because two people have done something wrong. Both of them have done something wrong. Both of you probably came from very traumatic past. All of us were born in very traumatizing. To be honest, all of us were born in sin. We're all born in imperfect ways. So you got to consider those things. We're different people. We're raised differently. Especially if you're in an interracial relationship, you're going to have a heavier load. I'm sorry. It's just that it is what it is. Because you're two different entities, two different ethnicities. You might have two different religious thoughts. One might have been hurt, church hurt, been this, that. But how do you get free from that? You let the ego die. You do, as I'm saying, you speak in love, not hatred, not hurt, not pain, not trauma. You let that drama queen walk out the door. And you say, you know what? I'm not going to be Jezebel. Because men carry the Jezebel spirit too. Remember? Men carry the Jezebel spirit too. How do we clear it up? How do we clean this up? We die. We let the ego die. We let the ego just completely go out the door and say, that means humble yourselves. Humble yourselves on both sides, the man and the woman, because the man loves to think that they're always right, and a woman loves to think that they're always right. But see, how do you bring it back together simultaneously is practicing Kabbalah. Look up Kabbalah. I mean, I looked at it one time, and it talks about, not operating an ego. When you can just say, you know what? It's not your fault. It's not my fault. I don't know what went wrong. We both we both made mistakes. And you can just talk about yourself. When you're communicating with a person, you say, I'm sorry that I hurt you. And a lot of people don't know how to apologize. They don't even know how to let it go. They don't even know how to say that they were wrong.